And now we've got a long road to overcome in order to get that back. Because like Bobby said, I guess they're both Bobbies, Bobby and Bobby. Like they both said, we don't have the money. We don't have the connections. We don't have the influence that career politicians have. And they are working overtime to use that money, those influence and those connections in order to drown us out and to make sure that the only voices that you hear about or the only names you hear are from their selected candidates and their predetermined people who they want to lead them, and obviously who will remain compromised by corporations, by special interests, and who will not serve the people that they stand up and take an oath to serve. So that is what we're doing here different. That's why we're here. And like Bobby said, we knock on doors all day, every day. I feel pretty good up here today because I'm not out in the heat knocking on doors like we are literally all day, every day. And we're doing this with a team of volunteers. I don't have consultants. We don't hire professionals to do this. I started knocking on doors and I started challenging voters one at a time. What are your own micro contributions to our macro problems? What are the things that you're doing or the things that you're not doing that allows our country to be this way? And what are you willing to change about that? And up in Osceola County, we built a really, really good team from citizens who were just knocked on their door and asked them. We got Debbie down here. We got Ileana. We got Obed. We got Jermaine. All of our volunteers, this is how we built it. We built it from the ground up because that's what it's going to take. For us to get what we need, we each have to do more. I understand what my part is that, but I'm inviting you guys to explore how you might be able to participate in that as well. So if you have the opportunity to stop by my tent on the way out, we have limited yard signs. We're almost out, but you guys are free to take those yard signs with you. We got flyers back there. You guys are free to share that with you. What we need is the community to start standing up. We need each of you to realize we don't get anywhere without you. And it's not just without your vote. It's without your advocation, without you going to share with your neighbors about our campaigns and what we're trying to do, without being able to make a financial contributions to our campaigns. And I know I hate to talk about money, but unfortunately it's part of the problem. Corporations and special interests pay a lot of money to be represented by the same seats you're supposed to be represented for. So in order to change that, I think we all start making a little bit of an investment as well and saying, what's it going to take for me to be represented? Now, the good news is there's so many of us. Everybody doesn't have to give everything. We can each give a little, and it actually adds up to a lot. So I hope you consider the types of changes that's needed, not just from me, not just from these other candidates, but from all the citizens involved as well. What does it take for us to get our country back and put it back into the hands of the people? It's going to take a collective effort. It's going to take communities to rally behind it. It's going to take more events like this and more people like you guys willing to come out to start taking the actions, to start advocating with your neighbors, to start hitting these local political meetings that exist and sharing with people and volunteering on our campaigns, doing that type of stuff. If any of you are interested in participating in a volunteer role, what I'm able to do is, like I said, he said I'm a little bit of a whiz on the computer. I wouldn't go that far, but we do have some pretty special computer software that we put together. We can help you identify. We can give you the tools that you need to reach people and be effective. Not so you're out there willy-nilly knocking on every door, but you're going to the voters that matter because we know who they are, and it's just a matter of us being able to get out to get them, and that's where the group effort goes with, okay? So, notice I haven't spoken about issues. I don't think issues are honestly the most important thing. I think most of our motto, our campaign slogan is conservative values and common sense. And if you stick with those two, everything else seems to fall into place. If we have good people who care about the communities that they're serving, and they have conservative values and common sense, we won't have overspending. We won't have the types of problems that existing. We won't have forever wars. We won't have any of these issues going on. We won't have a mental health epidemic taking place because we'll have people who are standing up to do something about the problems we're facing. So I want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank all of our volunteers who came out here with me. Bobby, Frank, I appreciate you guys inviting me to come here and join this with you. It's only when grassroots candidates stand up to do this together, we start combining our efforts, combining our resources to get change, that change will actually come. So really grateful to be here. If you have any questions, we'll be here all day. You stop by and just stop by and ask. And I'd like to bring up our next CFO of Florida, Dr. Frank College, excuse me.
Real quick, this is Memorial Day weekend. This is Memorial Day weekend, and as such, I'm a veteran, he's a veteran. This is something that touches deep in every one of our hearts, especially us veterans. So let's all take a moment, let's stand up, do a moment of silence, and then there's a flag back there, and let's go ahead and do the pledge. Okay, so moment of silence followed by a prayer.
Father in heaven, we are grateful for this opportunity to come together and discuss what's not just good for us, but what's also good for you. We ask for your guidance and your wisdom as we try to steer this nation who has fallen astray and fallen off of your path, as we guide it back onto the path of righteousness where it belongs. And we pray for wisdom, we pray for patience, we pray for strength and endurance that it will take to overcome the challenges that we're facing ahead. And we also take time to reflect upon the lives that have been lost in service of this very effort, from service members across multiple wars, from service members I've personally served alongside. The courage, the sacrifice that they gave, we ask this day that you put comfort in the families of the loved ones who have lost service members overseas, and we regain the dedication in our hearts to what it truly means to put the sacrifice that is needed for us to have the country that we have. So God, I pray that you build the strength in our hearts, the courage to move forward, and the endurance it will take to win these races, so that this nation can once again call itself one nation under God and proudly follow the guidance and the word and the wisdom that you provide to each of us every day. And in all things we pray through Christ our Savior. Amen.
Amen.
All right, the flags are behind us. There's a truck out there with a flag. I believe it's still there.
Yep.
All right, it's still there. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for indulging us on that. So, my name is Dr. Frank College. I am here to ask for your vote. Obviously, you don't want to vote for someone you don't know. So let me give you a little bit of background about myself. I grew up in Zephyr Hills, Florida. I joined the military. I served from 99 to 2010. I am a veteran. I did serve in Iraq and Afghanistan and Iraq. And while I was overseas, I met my lovely wife, Suzette, and I brought her here legally. We got 2 teenage daughters, which is why I'm bald and gray. And I have 2 master's degrees, a doctorate degree. When I left the military, I went back overseas as a civilian contractor, and my job was flying aerostats. These are big blimps. The job was to collect intel for the troops on the ground. After I did that, I came back to the state of Florida and I became an investigator for the Department of Business and Professional Regulation. My job was to go after unlicensed contractors. I eventually found myself as a public adjuster, which those who don't know, I'm an insurance adjuster that represents property owners. My job is to fight insurance companies. We are so good at this. We do 1,000 claims a year. We're in 8 states, pushing into our 9th state. And this is what I love. I love standing up for Floridians. And the fight I do against insurance companies, that's not going to stop when I become Chief Financial Officer, because many of you do not realize, but the Chief Financial Officer is the one who regulates insurance companies. And I think everyone here can agree insurance has gotten out of control. We are paying more for insurance and having less coverage. Recent report came out that insurance rates have gone up 18% since 2025. But Tallahassee is telling us that insurance rates have gone down. I don't know about you guys, but I probably would listen to the Floridians instead of Tallahassee. We have a problem with insurance in Florida. One of the reasons we have a problem is because it's not being held accountable. For instance, we have a Florida statute that says insurance policies must be readable. It cannot be below 45 on the flesh report. What that means is lower the number, higher your education level has to be. I run these policies through the flesh report, and it's always going below 45. That means these policies do not meet Florida statute. But why are we being held accountable to them? Why are we stuck with these policies? These policies that do not meet Florida statute. They're illegal in Florida, but yet we're still paying for it. And this is the stuff that the insurance company is telling us you will follow. Well, where's our accountability? Where's our leadership? Where's the people who's regulating insurance companies? Well, I'll tell you where they're at. Look at their donors. You got Blaise Ingoglia, who's our current CFO. He's getting over $1 million a year from insurance companies. There's only one reason insurance companies will donate that kind of money to the guy who regulates them, is because they need control. They want to do what they want to do with no regulation. Well, here's the thing. Accountability is key to the society, right? We are a society of rules. You break the rules, you pay the price, right? Well, the problem is if you're a lobbyist, you get away with it. If you're a politician, you get away with it. I don't think that's right. When's the last time we had any politician hold any other politician accountable? Anyone? Definitely not here. So the issue is you have a lot of issues across the board. And so Tallahassee was telling us if we got rid of one-way attorney fees, rates would go down. Everyone remember that, right? Everyone said the litigation was the reason why rates were going up, right? Well, they got rid of it. They got rid of attorney fees. So litigation stopped. Rates kept going up. Here's the thing, is they got rid of one-way attorney fees, so they stopped litigation. But why, at the same time they got rid of one-way attorney fees, did they take away alternative dispute resolutions out of your policy? Because the insurance company had no intention of stopping litigation. They want you to sue. The difference is corporate greed, because now you can't find an attorney to pick up your small claim. And small claims was what was holding was the number one driving factor on a lot of lawsuits, is because insurance companies will either underpay or deny it completely outright. Now you also have issues such as Blaise Ingoglia, our current CFO. When he was state senator, he voted to strip us all of our constitutional right to court. You probably didn't know that. If you have citizens insurance, and they deny your claim, you do not have the right to file a lawsuit. You have to go to mandatory arbitration. That's what he voted for. And so basically, what happens is they deny your claim, you go to mandatory arbitration. Citizens hires the arbitrator. They pay these judges $250,000 a year, by the way. They hire the arbitrator, they decide what evidence is allowed to be brought in, and then when you lose, they send you the bill for their legal fees. Luckily, this last Friday, a court down in Miami ruled that to be unconstitutional. That's good for us, but just remember, Citizens is gonna appeal that. But the issue is you got people in Tallahassee that are willing to strip us of our constitutional right to court. Last I checked, the Constitution and the Florida Constitution enshrines our capability of going to court. But yet, you got legislators willing to try and strip that from you. That's not who you want in power. Then you also have all these new carriers coming in Florida. The problem with these new carriers is they're not new carriers. Let's talk about them a little bit. You got Viceroy Insurance. Who's heard of Viceroy Insurance? Anyone? Well, Viceroy Insurance is a new carrier to Florida. Well, Viceroy is owned by the same conglomerate that owns Monarch Insurance. So it's not a new company. It's just a conglomerate that doubled down on Florida, which shows you that Florida's good. It's not as terrible for insurance as Tallahassee is trying to tell you. A second one, Patriot Insurance Company. Who's heard of Patriot Insurance Company? Well, Patriot's a new one to Florida. The problem is 5 years ago, they were Anchor Insurance. Storms hit Florida. They did a runoff because they didn't want to pay claims. Left the state of Florida, waited their 5-year grace period, changed their name, and came back to Florida. and got gifted thousands of policies from Citizens Depopulation Program. And then let's talk about Slide Insurance. Who's heard of Slide Insurance? A few of y'all, right? Slide Insurance. The CEO and hired the COO, the Chief Operating Officer. It's his wife. Combined, they make $50 million a year. They didn't sell any policies in Florida. They got policies from citizens gifted to them through the depopulation program. They waited until they collected 6 months of premium, went public, so now they got shareholders. They went public, made $120 million. Who's going to come first? The shareholders or you? Now, here's the thing that's really tricky about that, it really irritates me, is the CEO of Slide used to be with Heritage. Before Heritage, he represented a company called Enron. Who's heard of Enron? Yeah. I don't think that's the kind of carrier I want to be a part of. But I don't think that's the kind of carrier that we want in Florida, but yet we got bureaucrats in Tallahassee that's rubber stamping everything. One of the things is they keep raising our rates, right? I think if they're going to raise a rate, we are all legally mandated to purchase insurance. Not one of you can get away with not having insurance. If you operated a vehicle here, you had to have insurance. Everyone's legally mandated to buy insurance. It's the only private entity you have to purchase. But they want to raise rates and we have no say in it. Well, I think Department of Financial Services should tell insurance companies, if you want to raise a rate, you need to sit for a forensic audit. If they cannot justify a rate increase, DFS should deny a rate increase. Because what's happening is insurance companies move money from one entity to another that they control. Then they tell Tallahassee, we're losing money over here. We need to raise rates, and bureaucrats rubber stamp it, approve it. They move money back. We're losing money over here. They rubber stamp it, approve it. Our rates go up, coverage goes down. We are all now paying considerably higher for insurance with less coverage. If you look at your water endorsement for your policy, a lot of the water endorsement is illusionary coverage. Because what happens is it says you have to report it within 14 days of the initial leak, and if you don't report it within first 14 days, we don't owe for the water. Well, what if it's hitting in the ceilings, walls, or floors? If it's hidden and you don't know about the leak, you don't know about it, right? How are you supposed to report it within the first 14 days if it's a slow leak and you don't see it for months later until it actually breaks through the wall? Illusionary coverage. Everyone, please read your policy. One of the issues also is when you buy a policy, they give you 4 pages. It's called a deck page. But the policy is 60 pages long. The deck page is a 10,000-foot overview of the policy. But when you actually read the policy, it takes away a lot of the coverage that you're supposed to be covered for. Because it says stuff like what I just told you. On your deck page, like, oh, you're covered for water, but in the policy, it's like, unless this happens. There's a cartoon in the newspaper. It was funny. I love the cartoon. It shows an insurance company at the guy's house, a tree on his house. He's like, oh, sir, I would love to cover you, but in your policy it says we're covered for oak and this is pine. And it's because that's how policies work. It's words. Words matter in policies. And unfortunately, we've never had a CFO that understands policy. Our current CFO, he's a career politician, and he's a builder. He's a developer. I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired of developing Florida. The best part of Florida is rivers, swamps, trees, orange groves, cow farms. What makes Florida beautiful is Florida. What's not beautiful in Florida is concrete, sky rises, development, period. We need to stop that. All 3 of us here, we all believe the same thing about that. We're overdeveloped. Our aquifer is getting depleted. We were just talking at a no data center rally, and we don't believe in data centers. So if you truly want to keep Florida, remember, try to stay away from the establishment. Okay, you want the grassroots candidates. You want people who actually understand what's going on, the people who actually understand you. We're not beholden to lobbyists. But if you look at if you look at the establishment, they're beholden to lobbyists. So do your research. Remember, August 18th is the election. For some of us, Matt and I, August 18th is it. There is no Democrats we're running against. That's it. Matt and I, August 18th, that's the only election. That's the only time you get to let your voice be heard. So don't forget August 18th. All right. So up next will be Matt, and I do have a table in the back there. Yesterday we did several events, and I am completely out of yard signs and pins. So if you guys want yard signs and pins, please just let us give us your information. We will mail them to you. Okay. And so, no further ado, here's Matt. Thank you. What's that? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Oh, my next event? It's Tuesday somewhere. I don't know. My wife has the calendar back there. All right, thank you.
How you guys doing? I want to apologize for my tardiness. I drive a high mileage Ford, so things happen on the trip down this way. I'm the most hated man in Tallahassee, and the darndest thing is I've never even been to that city. I've done it all from Hillsborough County. Earlier this year, they passed a law to try to take me off the ballot. I changed my name legally from Matthew Taylor to Matt the Welder, and I know this sounds kind of like why, what, how. Most people know me as Matt the Welder, so when I tried to run under the affidavit, when I ran for county commissioner in Hillsborough, they took away my nickname affidavit and said, you can't be Matt the Welder. But so many people didn't know who Matt the Welder was, what my real name was, and then actual Matt Taylor's other ones were getting random comments from people directed at me and had to pin post at the top of their social media saying, I'm not Matt the Welder, go over there and direct all your comments over there to him. While it was great publicity for me, I felt bad. And I got to thinking, how do I get Matt the Welder on the ballot to where they can't remove it? And how do I help these other Matt Taylors out? And I said, if I change my name legally to Matt the Welder, there's absolutely nothing they could do. I've never been more wrong in my life. Turns out there is something they can do. What they did in the Florida SAVE Act is they added an amendment that says if you changed your name legally by petition of the courts 365 days before qualifying for an election, you're not able to be a candidate in the election. So I had to hire an attorney. What they didn't expect was we had so much grassroots support and so many people contributed to our campaign that we were actually able to hire an attorney and fight back. And just hiring an attorney was enough for the Florida Department of State to issue a memorandum with a directive that says, okay, these candidates that were affected by the name change are now able to run for office, but under their previous legal name, which is no longer my legal name. It sounds like an episode of Seinfeld, but this is how corrupt the bureaucrats in the state of Florida are, that they would go out of their way to add an amendment 1 month after I changed my name legally to Matt the Welder. And I did something, though, that nobody in the state of Florida, to my knowledge, has done yet. Both sides did this to me. So I got both sides to agree on something. The Republicans and the Democrats both agreed that I shouldn't go to Tallahassee. So we're making progress. Now can we get those growth management laws? Like we're getting there. So I will be on the ballot, but you'll have to vote for me as Matthew Taylor. And when I win, Matt the Welder will take office. Like I said, it's a Seinfeld episode. It's something that I don't even think would happen in Zimbabwe, but it's happening right here in Florida. There's nothing more Florida than the agriculture election so far. It has played out exactly like a Florida man's story. I'm running for the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services to be the next agriculture commissioner. It's a very important job that most people kind of overlook or don't understand what the job is. Because of its name, most folks assume crops and cattle. Sometimes you'll see the stickers on the gas pumps and at scales on public supermarkets and stuff like that. But because it's consumer services, it handles the division of licensing for concealed licensing, security guard licensing, repossession agents have to get their licensing from the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Charities have to register with the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. When you go into the bathroom to wash your hands, you'll see the food health safety plaque there that says Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. The Division of Forestry is under the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. The Office of Energy is under the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. And what the Office of Energy is it helps shape the policy of our utilities in the state of Florida. So the Office of Energy works with the legislature and the governor to decide, are we going to keep putting solar fields across the state of Florida, or how are we going to proceed with energy from here on out? It doesn't increase your rates or anything like that. That's Public Service Commission, but basically anything the legislature didn't know what to do with, they lumped it all under the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. So it's a cabinet position as well, so it votes on clemency, it votes on our conservation land. Most notably is the $83 million 4-acre sandbar that we taxpayers paid for up in Destin that offered no conservation value. It just rewarded a prominent GOP donor by the name of Robert Guidry, and Robert Guidry pled guilty to a felony in the state of Louisiana for bribing the Louisiana governor to get a casino riverboat license. This is who we just gave $83 million of our tax dollars to. We should have taken that money and brought it down south. We should have used it for actual conservation land, for the scrub jay, for the panther, for the gopher tortoises, or any other critter that is needing that land, instead of buying a 4-acre sandbar that is nothing more than just a sandbar up there in Destin. And if a hurricane comes, it's probably going to wipe a lot of what we purchased out. It was a very foolish decision. The Department of Agriculture, it also handles pesticides, and pesticides is an umbrella term that includes herbicides, including the ones that are being sprayed in our waterways against the will of the people. There's not many people when I travel the state of Florida that agrees with the FWC herbicide treatments being sprayed in our waterways. Now, as the Commissioner of Agriculture, you couldn't go up to the FWC and say, hey, I'm going to stop you from spraying because I'm the FWC Commissioner and I don't agree with it. But all chemicals, all pesticides that are registered in the state of Florida have to be registered through the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. And they register aquatic and terrestrial pesticides. So right now in the state of Florida, there is 17 pesticides or herbicides that are registered to be sprayed in the waterways of Florida. Glyphosate is one of them. That's the most notable name that everybody from here to California and all the way across the country and maybe the world knows about. And some will say, well, the Commissioner of Agriculture would need a reason or a scientific study to start unregistering these chemicals. You just can't go in there and start unregistering some of these aquatic chemicals. When you look at glyphosate, the University of Florida has actually looked at that one because of its name recognition, and they said that the University of Florida veterinary scientists claim that glyphosate compounds cold stress in manatees and affect its renal system. So that would be a reason to prohibit glyphosate from being sprayed into our waterways right now. When they had manatee deaths up there in Lee County, they blamed it on the Florida Power and Light plant that shut down, but nobody's went into details. How long was the plant shut down? Did the water temperature raise enough to actually cause the cold stress? And they didn't even offer that some of the herbicides we're spraying could have compounded the cold stress these manatees supposedly died from. When you go to one of the next ones that is most frequently used by the FWC spray program or their contractors, it's a chemical called Tribune is the trade name, and the chemical name is diquat-dibromide. When you start looking at diquat-dibromide, in 1994, they linked it to eagle deaths in Arkansas at a reservoir. So when you spray diquat-dibromide on hydrilla, there's a cyanobacteria on there, and the bromide in the diquat-dibromide supercharges the toxin, and it causes the birds of prey to develop lesions in their brains, and that they said that was the reason these eagles died. And you can actually link it down here to the state of Florida with the snail kite. The snail kite's a very endangered bird, and it feeds on apple snails. They were able to take the apple snail at the University of Georgia and bioaccumulate the cyanobacteria and the toxin up through the apple snails into chickens, because you couldn't kill off a snail kite because they're so incredibly dangerous. So they used chickens, and they got the lesions that form in the brains and have all the symptoms of what the eagles died from, and they said it's the diquat-dibromide. It should be reassessed, especially on man-made bodies of water, like I think it was Lake Russo, where hydrilla is sitting in reservoirs and areas like that, because that's when the toxin becomes most supercharged to affect the birds. So the Florida Department of Agriculture and the Ag Commissioner has a responsibility to the people of Florida to protect not only their health, but also our environment. That same chemical diquat-dibromide in Tribune, it's sold by a company called Syngenta, and Syngenta is owned by ChemChina. That company is headquartered in Europe, but they don't let you spray it there because of the adverse effects to the environment and also nearby bystanders and humans that could be exposed to it. But why are we spraying it in our waterways in Florida, especially down here in Okeechobee, where some of our water comes from Lake Okeechobee in this area? I would like to see Florida start leading the nation in regional slaughterhouses. Right now, the price of beef is up there and it's really expensive, and we are being told the only way to lower it is if we bring in Argentinian beef, and that'll bring down the price of beef. But there's only 4 companies in the United States that slaughter 85% of the beef in the United States. My fear is when they bring in Argentinian beef and they run the American rancher out of business, they will jack the price of beef right back up, and our agriculture lands will be quickly developed into houses at a faster rate than we're already experiencing. The same thing with our Florida state farmers markets. There's 12 state farmers markets across the states right now, across the state of Florida right now, and they're closed part of the year, but we do grow vegetables all year round in Florida. We should open those up and make sure everybody knows where they are. We should open them up to restaurants, especially since Cisco is purchasing out Office Depot, and they are making it a monopoly in our food service system for our restaurants. It would open up the free markets, and it would drive the price of vegetables down for consumers. The only way to lower the price of food is to let the free markets do what they do best. Provide consumers with more options instead of taking away choices and forcing them to go to Publix and Walmart. We should be doing a lot more to help our citrus farmers right now in the state of Florida. 90% of our citrus industry has declined in the state of Florida, and the bureaucrats in Tallahassee and DC has turned their back on the citrus industry. It is, thought that was a rat, I almost ran away. I don't do rats. I was ready to jump on top of the roof. It was a lizard, by the way. So 90% of our citrus industry has declined in the state of Florida because of citrus greening and the little insect that carries it from grove to grove. Well, it's no longer a Florida problem. The citrus greening has been found in California, and the bug that carries it has also been found in California. So anytime they find the Asian citrus psyllid in California, they wipe out every citrus tree in a 5-mile radius from wherever they find the bug, whether or not they find it on your grove. And I think it was about 3 months ago, 33,000 citrus trees out of citrus nurseries had to be destroyed in California because they found the Asian citrus psyllid 2 miles away. Nobody in Tallahassee is talking about this. Nobody in DC is talking about how our citrus industry as a nation is about to be affected by citrus greening. And it's no longer even a Florida problem. It's also down in Brazil they have found this insect. And what they found in Brazil is it's resistant to pesticides. In Brazil, they tried spraying 46 treatments a year on their grove to get a control of the insect, only to find that the numbers of the insect continue to climb because it reproduces so quickly, it's resistant to pesticide. So we are facing a problem of the orange industry is falling everywhere, and everybody in DC would rather distract us with divisional politics. We need to have the 2026 Florida Farm Bill did nothing to help our farmers. It was a win for I call it the agriculture chemical complex, because they put a food disparagement clause in there that we had to fight and push back to get removed. If you were to speak out against some of these chemicals they're spraying in our waterway under the 2026 Farm Bill with that food disparagement clause, because it was all food products, not just tomatoes or meat or anything like that. It was everything that goes into growing food. You could be sued, and it was one-way attorney fees. So if you won after defending yourself, you would still have to pay for your own attorney fees and wouldn't be able to recover for whoever sued you. It did nothing to help our farmers. It should have offered to help our citrus farmers transition from citrus trees to another crop, so we don't have to continue to sell off all of our orange groves. In the state of Florida, citrus trees can only grow, not in Florida, but everywhere, they only grow on dry, sandy soil. If we develop all of our orange groves and turn them into houses, data centers, or whatever, and we find a cure for citrus greening, but we don't have that dry, sandy soil, we still won't be able to bring back the citrus industry in the state of Florida. And it seems really reckless and not fiscally sound to spend as much money as we have to try to find a cure for citrus greening, only to develop all of our orange groves and the land that we need the orange groves to grow on. We should have used the Florida Farm Bill to protect our rural routes from data centers. We should be pushing for a moratorium on data centers right now, because we don't know if that technology is going to be outdated in 5 years, 10 years. At the rate of the technology as it is going on, pagers were at one time the hit thing, and I don't think anybody carries a pager anymore, even if you're a doctor in an ER. The same thing could be true with these data centers that we are building in our rural routes that are taking up thousands of acres of land, taking water from the farmers who need it the most. Without water, our farmers, they can't farm. We need to start sending people not just to Tallahassee, but to DC that recognize that our farmers buy everything at retail and sell everything at wholesale. I can think of no other industry where that happens. And they need people that will represent their industry. The Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services has 4 lobbyists that work on behalf of the department to represent the interest of not only farmers, but the consumers in the state of Florida, because it's also the Consumer Services and it's the Florida Forest Service. One of those lobbyists, he's very good. He won the Agriculture Commissioner, or he won the Agriculture Lobbyist of the Year back in 2025, but the best they could do this year in 2026, the Florida Farm Bill was sold to us as a way to protect our gas-powered weed eaters. I didn't even know that was a threat in the state of Florida, that they were coming after our gas-powered lawn equipment. So the department appears to be not only mismanaged, but representing the interest of developers and special interests, the big farmers that have millions of dollars that can donate heavily to our bureaucrats in the state of Florida. The small farmers is what needs our help the most. Right now, our Greenbelt laws are so broken, they need to be amended. Developers are using our Greenbelt laws, which is supposed to be a tax relief for farmers to help them keep their land and keep it from selling it. When you go up to Sarasota County, you'll run into a developer by the name of Pat Neal of Neal Communities. Pat is a billionaire. He was a former Florida state representative, and he has got it down to a science of how to use Florida Greenbelt laws to help him build developments and save millions of dollars sometimes in tax revenue. As soon as a developer puts in a variance, files a permit, and it's clear that that land is going to be houses and no longer used as agriculture purposes, that's when we should start taxing them outside of the agriculture tax bracket, because it's costing us as longtime Floridians money as residents. We are rolling out the red carpet for people that don't live in the state yet, that have bad policies in other states, and are telling them, come here to Florida, we will take you, we want your higher income individuals, while our longtime residents are being priced out of their own communities. We should be raising impact fees at the county level to pay for all of this new growth that the developers are bringing in, because if we're not, then they're turning around and we, the people, are paying for the new infrastructure, the new roads, the new water utilities. Water is starting to become a expensive commodity in the state of Florida. You go up to Polk County where the phosphate industry rules, they have, Mosaic is permitted to pump 70 million gallons a day out of the aquifer up there. Now they pat themselves on the back that they only pump 30 million gallons a day. Recently, Fort Meade, which is in Polk County, approved a new data center that will use 50,000 gallons of water a day in an area where Kissingen Springs has already been dried up because of over pumping. Kissingen Springs at one time was supposed to be like a Wiki-Wachi type thing. There wasn't mermaids or anything like that, but it was the place to be in Polk County. It was a beautiful spring. It had a lot of water coming out of it, and now it's just a muddy hole in the ground because they have pumped so much water in Polk County. Nevertheless, we just approved a data center in an area where water is already scarce. And it's getting so scarce in Polk County. The Polk Regional Water Collective earlier this year sued the Tampa Bay Water for access to the Alafia River, because they need water for their growing population, but the Alafia River had gotten down so low, Tampa Bay Water couldn't even hardly tap into it. So the Polk Regional Water Collective came up with an idea that they're going to drill down and hit the brackish layer of the aquifer. And they're going to tap the brackish layer of the aquifer in Polk County as a municipal water supply, pull that water up, run it through a reverse osmosis, use it as a water supply for its expanding population, and then all of the minerals and salt that comes out of that brackish water, we're going to put in a deep injection well and send it back down into the ground. What I fear is going to happen in Polk County is water bills are going to increase substantially if you're on city water, and sinkholes are going to start to become way more prevalent in Polk County, because if you've already dried out the freshwater layer and you're tapping the brackish layer, I don't think I can think of anywhere else in the state where that has been done. Southwest Florida Water Management District has to come up with alternative water sources. They're spending our tax dollars to find new sources of water for a growing population of people that aren't here yet. Let the developers pay to find their own alternative water source. Why are you pushing it onto us? The the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, because it's such an important position, you could use that position to help give us growth management laws. You can use it to withhold votes on certain things. Like if they were voting on the Rays Stadium, they gave away 22 acres up there to build the new Rays Stadium. They didn't even get a appraisal on the land we gave away to Hillsborough Community College for them to build on that property. If I was ag commissioner, I would have withheld my vote. I would have told them I'm not voting on this, and I'll vote no on it, because that land should be sold to community for the ball game, and we take that money and buy more conservation land with it. I'm tired of these one-sided deals, and I think everybody else in the state of Florida is tired of watching our tax dollars enrich foreign real estate investors in some cases, real estate developers in some cases, and the Department of Ag can actually be used to help make sure that no matter who the next governor is, the people are represented because of how powerful the position is. I also believe not only should we bring back the 1985 Growth Management Act that requires infrastructure before development, we should also be pushing for protections on our rural boundaries. Only the people inside the rural boundaries should be able to vote to move the urban service quarter out and bring in water utilities and more people in their communities. We should be putting moratoriums on data centers and also these large-scale developments that we can no longer continue building. And it's actually starting to happen across some of the smaller cities. Instead of them annexing and getting bigger and bigger, me, Bobby, and Frank were in an area where one of the cities issued a moratorium on development. Now, it doesn't stop all development. If you go in there and try to build 700 houses inside that city limit, they won't let you do it. If you're building 8 houses or less, you can still build houses in like infill. And they recognize that there's just not enough infrastructure to continue approving Lennar and all of these new massive communities for these people that most Floridians don't want. I think if you were building 1 acre to even quarter acres inside the rural routes, people wouldn't get as upset as they are right now. We feel like we have no representation in our own community. And I think what makes me, I don't know if the popular is the right word, but relevant is I started looking for answers of, number one, why is the current ag commissioner not doing anything, speaking out against this overdevelopment and the solar fields popping up on our land? And what I found is the current ag commissioner is a real estate developer who identifies as a chicken farmer, and he has made millions of dollars in Pasco County, not just developing houses in Pasco County, but also off of utility companies. He's selling agriculture land, turning it into solar farms, and he's in charge of the Office of Energy. Conflict of interest, to say the least. We also need to update our campaign finance laws in the state of Florida. From the local level all the way up to the federal level, the campaign finance laws are allowing our voice to be trampled down to where we don't have a voice anymore. In Hillsborough County, I can take you to a developer who has donated $25,000 to 4 out of the 7 county commissioners on the board. It's unethical, but it's totally legal. And the way they're doing it, and I'm finding they're doing this, there's at least one developer in every county. As they build a subdivision, they put it into an LLC. Probably started out innocent. You know, you break your leg in the common area, you don't want to sue the developer. But they figured out the way the campaign finance laws are written for the local level is, if you are married, you and your spouse can donate $1,000. And if you have a business, the business can donate $1,000. Well, if you have 25 LLCs, you can legally donate $28,000, $27,000, however many LLCs you have. And that's what they're doing to push out the voice of the people. In Hillsborough County, what that is translating to for developers is they're getting preferential treatment, like being able to run water utilities inside the rural boundaries. You could have still built the subdivisions, but you would have had to put them on wells and put them on bigger lots. But because they brought in the water utilities into our rural boundaries for one developer and claimed it's a public interest, by definition that would be a private interest, that our voice is being drowned out. But we need to start sending people to Tallahassee that will not only point out these conflicts of interest, but refuse money from these massive companies and from political committees. Like right now, I believe I have raised approximately $200,000, all from people. No big companies like Mosaic, U.S. Sugar, or any home developers. It's all come from people, and it hasn't come from any other PAC or political committee. And I don't have a political committee myself, even though folks inside my own party have said, hey, you should get a PAC, and then we can get this company or this developer to donate thousands of dollars to you, and then you can use those for campaign advertisements and stuff like that. I believe what people want from their representatives is way more than smear campaigns and political advertisements. We want representation, and that's what you're going to have with me as your next vaccination. What makes me the most hated man in Tallahassee isn't that I stand here and speak to you folks and get you to clap. It's because I call out corruption on both sides of the aisle. How can you say you're America first, Florida first, Okeechobee first, if you can't call out corruption in your own party? By definition, you're party first. And that is what has made me the most hated man in Tallahassee, is the fact that I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican, if you're doing the state of Florida and its constituents wrong, I'm going to call you out on it, even if you're in my own party. I will go ahead and, I think, leave you guys with this. If your elected representatives aren't, especially at the state level and local level, if they're not focusing on Florida problems, because Florida problems are as unique as the state is, find a different representative. If they're trying to distract you with division politics and make you dislike your neighbor, find another representative. If they've been in office for 20 years and they still blame the other party, they are the problem. Find another representative. Don't argue over me or any other politician at your family dinners. There's better ways to ruin a family dinner than with politics. Alcohol is normally a good choice, a lot more fun than talking about politics. Get your neighbors out there August 18, 2026. Just tell them, hey, be registered to vote. Don't tell them how to vote, because you can argue till you're blue in the face and you're not going to change their values. At the end of the day, we can all agree the world needs less Mitch McConnells, less Wilton Simpsons, less Nancy Pelosi's, and less Chuck Schumer's. And if you can't find anybody at the state level that will focus on Florida problems and problems in your neighborhoods, then get out there yourself and run for office. It's so easy, even a welder can do it. Thank you, guys. I'll leave you with that.
Awesome, awesome. Y'all give them another hand clap. Come on. I like going after him because he gives you all the details and I disagree with him. It's a lot easier, a lot better. But at the end of the day, it's about truth. Not only the truth sets you free, but truth is what people want. They're tired of the lies. They're tired of being lied to. Right now with mainstream media, your government, all that kind of stuff, all we see is lie after lie after lie. Because it's no longer we the people, it's we the lobbyists and we the big corporations, and people are fed up. And Matt said it best, and part of my job is running for governor, as I crisscross this state, is to convict people. We've been told we win at the ballot box. Have we won the ballot box? We've been told we win if we vote red. Do we have a voice? We win by getting godly men and women in these seats. You can say, I don't have time. I don't have time. I've had a business for 25 years, number one. I pastor Freedom Church for 8 years. I run a ministry called the Freedom Tour. We average 1 million pounds of product a month. I'm running for governor, and number 5, y'all husbands know this, I've got honeydews. And my marriage don't go always that great because the honeydews don't get done, so I'm doing the 4 before the 5th one. But you can make time, and we have to make time. If we want to see a change in our country, change in our state, change in your county or city, you've got to stand up. So like I said, we've been lied to that we win by voting, but do we? Because for too long, we voted against the least of two what? Evils. How much evil is too much evil? 1% of evil is too much evil. That's the reason why we got to have godly men and women that are standing on truth, willing to fight against corruption and do it. It's going to take one at a time, but we got to make that difference. You see that with Trump. He's one guy, but he is making a difference. It's a hard battle, and it is a battle. People say, how do you know you can win? It doesn't matter. It's called hope. That's the reason why Jesus gives us that hope. But when we have him behind us, and you have truly godly character behind you, he can make a way when there is no way. So a lot of times I get asked the question, number one, what sets you apart from these other guys? Number one, for the last 10 years, I've given my life to Jesus. I've served my community. I continue to serve my community. During COVID, I didn't mask, I didn't shut down, I didn't take a shot. Instead, I seen an issue and a problem. I said, you know what? Well, let's try to solve it. So we went out in the street, started feeding 1,500 people a day. From COVID to now, I've been blessed to move over 100 million pounds of product. If you had to buy, that's 350 million gift in kind. on a staff of 2.5, taking every dollar turned into $50. Tell me a government organization that does that. They take every $5,000 and turn it into $1. My message across the state is this, Matthew 7:16. You'll know them by their fruit. Politicians, we know this, are going to lie to us, they're going to cheat, they're going to steal, they're going to make smoke screens, they're going to do all this to get your vote. But we have to look at it and go, what is their fruit? Who are they truly? What have they produced? Where were they during COVID? Where were they during hurricanes? We showed up to every hurricane since Hurricane Mike, like 2016, I can't remember them all. They come across Central Florida, come through here. Actually, 2005, I remember Charlie, Florence, we had them all. But Hurricane Michael, we showed up in the Panhandle 3 days after that storm, slept on a barn floor with 3 trailers full of stuff, stayed there for 5 months and helped them people. Hurricane Ian come through Fort Myers. I put 6.5 million pounds into Hurricane Ian. Hurricane Milton come through a few years ago, 2024, through our county. And what I do is before that, because of my character, who I am, what I've done, I've gained access to county commissioners, city commissioners, sheriffs. We work with all of them throughout the state. I went to my county and my EOC and said, here's what I want to do. I want to be a part of what y'all are doing. No money, free. We need to free up the city officials, the county officials. There's no reason y'all guys should be out there trying to hand out food and water and distribute all this when you have ministries and churches that are willing to do it. So I did that. We moved 10.5 million pounds through Hurricane Milton for free to our EOC, our county, and it was the best it's ever got. They praised that. It's almost an example we're setting across the state as we go across these EOC officials talking about how do y'all do this. And it's getting nonprofits involved. Quit wasting our taxpayers' money. Because no longer it's we the people, it's we the lobbyists and we the big corporations. We got to get lobbyists out of Tallahassee. That's the issue, that's the problem. I agree with Matt. We got to get rid of PACs. PACs, it ain't just the funding, it's taxes the problem. These seats are being bought in and not voted in. These guys should have to do what us guys are doing. We're traveling the state. Everybody says, thank you for coming to Okeechobee. Okeechobee matters. We were in Hawthorne. We were just in Tiberias. We were in Citrus County. We did 3 events, all 3 of us yesterday. Different little cities, different little towns. Why? Because every town matters, every voice matters. And we need help. We need support. We're not getting $1 million checks written to us. But the level playing field we have today is social media. The reason why most of y'all even know who we are is because social media. That's the reason why we ask you to like, share, follow, create your own page or your own following, put stuff out there. That helps us. That's the only level playing field we have, and that's going to make a difference. Because these seats are being bought in. Tallahassee's bought and paid for. Your government's bought and paid for. Till we get these grassroots guys in these seats, it's going to make a difference. And you can't have the mentality of they're not going to make it, they're not going to do it. No. It's one voice, one person at a time making a difference. If that's the case, then why did Trump even run? If one person don't make a job. I hear that so many times. If one person doesn't matter, why even Trump run? It does make a difference. We see that. We got to shake it up. Because it's not red against blue. It's not Democrats against Republicans. It's good versus evil. It's darkness against light. That's what we're fighting. Because I don't care what, I call them divorce attorneys. Your Republicans and your Democrats are nothing but divorce attorneys. They come in a room, they come on media, they come on stage, they get in front of the camera and they fight like cats and dogs. On the weekend and evening, they're playing golf, shooting pool, eating dinner together, figuring out how to get mine and your money. Because one of my biggest stances is this, and I get a lot of kickback from some county commissioners and city commissioners, is I'm for no property tax. How many of y'all for no property tax?
Amen.
2 reasons why. Number 1, I deal with widows, less fortunate people every day, all day. I deal with every class of people, from the poorest to the middle class, to sheriffs, to teachers. Through the Freedom Tour, I work with our school programs. We create free programs in these schools to create better education. I work with sheriff's officers and police officers to take them in bad communities, to build relationships. That's one reason why we have one of the greatest sheriffs. Y'all know Grady Judd in Polk County. He says this, it takes good people doing good things for good things to happen. And we work together as partners to make that happen. But I deal with these people every day and they can't even pay their bills. And now you got a woman, maybe her husband died, the wife died, you have dual income, now you have a single income. They've been paying on their house 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and you as a government has the right to take their house away because they can't afford taxes? Come on, how bad is that? That's the first reason. The second reason is you do have a CFO right now, which is, I don't believe anything's going to happen. There's never accountability in our government, running around, dodging every city and every county. Some of these cities and counties in the hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. That's been going on now for what, 6 months? What has changed? Where's accountability? There is none. But what shows the difference, it tells me there's enough money there to pay for your property tax. Because they're going to scare you and go, well, we're not going to have law enforcement. We're going to have education. You serve a republic. Whether it's the county local level or a state level or a federal level, they're going to have to pay for your tax. They're going to have to pay for your schools. They're going to have to pay for your law enforcement. They're not going to allow you not to have any of that. Even though they're robbing and stealing and taking our money away, they're not going to allow that to happen because we know that's going to be an uproar. So why does it matter why is the county even paying for your sheriff and your school? Whether you know this or not, your county officials and city officials have zero say in your sheriff's department and schools. The only say they have is to approve their budget. Once their budget is approved, they're on their own. So why does that matter if that money's coming from the state or not? And to answer even more of that question, your own governor, DeSantis, I think he was at Vero Beach 3 or 4 days ago, he was talking about property tax, and he told y'all the answer to everything. He says, number one, we got so much money coming in, we're paying off debt. In 7 years, we paid over 50% of our debt. Number two, we have a rainy day fund. Number three, we have a slush fund. Number four, which is the most important one, we got so much money coming in that my legislation is trying to make me create another slush fund to build more money up over here. That's how much money you got coming in through the state level. Then, let's go through the governor's budget. I'm just going to hit a few of them. Last year, he gave cancer research $185 million. That's like giving Pfizer $185 million. Do you think they really need it? If there is a cure for cancer, they're never going to give it to you. He gave a disaster relief ministry called CORE, which is Sean Kent, out-of-state ministry, $23 million. There's $200 million just there. And I can go on and on and on and on. There's enough money you're paying right now to take care of property tax, and it's got to get back to we the people. That's the reason why I'm against no property tax. Number two, reasons why I'm running for governor, many reasons I'm running for governor, our lower education system is horrible. Our K through 12 is nothing but testing and testing and testing and testing and testing. I know that for one. My wife's a school teacher of 25 years. She comes home every day. She quit 10 years ago because she was frustrated and aggravated. She went back about 8 months ago, comes back home still frustrated and aggravated, gets in my face, points her finger in my face. I know y'all wives don't do that. And says, what are you going to do as governor about my schools? And not only do I got to hear that from her, I hear that from school teachers, I hear from principals. They're frustrated and aggravated. Their hands are tied because of our government. As a governor, we control the strings. We control the budgets. Everybody says, oh, it's unions. Guess what? We don't pay the unions. We pay directly to the schools. We can change some of this stuff up. We can make differences. You need a governor that's going to make a difference. Because most of your issues and problems, you talk about affordability, your governor can change. Your electrical utility companies have getting millions, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of federal and state money for solar fields, which I'm against. All this kind of stuff. Everything in your house is energy efficient. You got LED light bulbs. Has your electric bill ever went down? All we do is provide a gap for them to make more money. We are Tampa Electric there in Central Florida and the west coast of Florida. 2023, 2024, Tampa Electric made $300 million. Hurricane coming in through 24, they said we need to raise the price, increase. The governor appoints the board who says yes or no to them. You know how many times they've been told no? Zero. You know what they got? They got an increase. 24, 25, they made $400 million. $100 million more dollars off you and I. When's enough enough? We got water right now. We got water restrictions. We got pollution of water. We got AI data centers, which I'm against. I was just in Citrus County with these guys fighting that. I'll be in Fort Meade here at the end of the month of June, really replacing the commissioners who voted for the AI data center for me. That's our goal. And as a governor, I learned this from DeSantis the other day. I knew a little bit, but I learned it. The governor has the right to pull sheriffs out of place, pull city commissioners out of place, county commissioners out of place. We watch them waste and abuse all across the state. Has that changed? No. I think he only done one sheriff down in Broward, I believe. That's it. Why ain't it happening more? Because they're divorce attorneys. It's all about being bought and paid for. We gotta have godly men and people in these seats. We need to see change. It's gotta change. Enough's enough. Right now, I'm against developing. I don't mind if you get a half acre, maybe 1 acre, if that. But we are Florida's full. How many of y'all agree Florida's full? We don't have the water, and right now we're at so much capacity, they're taking your septic sewer water, we call it toilet to tap. They're taking your poopy water, saying they're treating it, and dumping it in your water, your lower aquifer, and everywhere else. You see sickness and disease on the rise. At what point do we become Aaron Brockovich? Truly. We should be looking, we're at a tipping point when you have to take something like that and treat it and pump it back into your water system. How many of y'all trust your government? How many of y'all trust media? How many of y'all trust Dr. Fauci? You can't trust nobody anymore. That's the reason why you gotta, what is the fruit of these people? What are they really willing to do? I'll make a joke real quick to be funny. How many of your wives married your husband that's still praying he had changed? Has he changed? Men, are y'all going to change? So when you look at these politicians, look what they've done before. Most of them have self-enriched themselves. None of them have served your government in a sense of your community for free, helping giving back to your community. You see them now that are running for a political office, all of a sudden they're standing in front of a food truck. All of a sudden they're down there visiting a widow. All of a sudden they're visiting a fan. But where were they 4 years ago before campaign? Where were they at 10 years ago? I can tell you where I was at. It's about serving a community and giving back. And that's what we need from our people. We need from running for government and just be a blessing. It's about godly character. And if we keep voting same people in over and over and over, expecting different results, what is the definition of that?
Insanity.
Marriage. I'm just kidding. Insanity. It is. That's the reason why you got to look at these guys, look at their character, look at what one they do. Because two things solves it all. Every issue, every problem, you're going to ask me, I'll do some questions and answers. I'll bring these, y'all guys come back up here real quick. I'll allow you to do some Q&As. So if it gets out of hand, I'll cut it off. But do 2 Q&As, because every now and then you'll have somebody that's out there. 2 things solves all your problems. Number 1, the reason why I say it's godly character. If you have a godly character and a godly heart, you truly love God with all your heart, you love your neighbors, you love yourself, you're not going to rob, steal, cheat, and fraud. That solves every problem you talk about. From swift mud to replacing the FWC board, to spraying your lakes, destroying your fisheries. That's the reason why it's about fruit, right? Ask your fishermen where your fisheries are at. They'll tell you, because they're on the lakes every day, it's destroyed and destroying and getting worse. If you go ask your biologists, your FWC guys in the state, they're telling you it's not an issue or problem. That's the reason why we got to look at the fruit. But godly character will solve every problem to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. The number 2 is very rare. It's called common sense. Can I get an amen? Amen. Gentlemen, y'all come back up here. Matt, Frank, y'all come back up here. As they work your way up, anybody got any questions for me? As what part of that?
Really?
Well, to me, it's about Florida first, America first. You know, we got to have America first, Florida first. You shouldn't, number 1, shouldn't have any foreign influence in the state of Florida. To me, you got to get all foreign influence, any kind of foreign anything out of it. You're either American or you're not.
I don't know, you run for office?
Anybody got a question for any of these guys? Yes, ma'am, in the back. You guys yell loud.
My question is for you.
I want to turn this off. Hold on. I know they don't want to. I know they don't want to. We got to turn it off. You want to say something or question? Come on.
When you mentioned about the homestead, the building of the homestead, it needs to be made very sure that it's for your primary residence, because that's a little confusing, and that's one thing that your opponents will use stuff against you. So I just want to make that comment. If you need a blow dryer, just call me.
Awesome. Yeah, we need a couple of them up here fans. I will turn it back on because it is the coolest place up here. But no, it's about homestead. It's about, there's two things. There's a lot of details that go into that when you talk about property tax. Number one, it's got to be homestead. But number two, we can't make homestead so free. It needs to be free for your everyday taxpayer. But if you move here from out of state, there should be a tax you got to pay. And continue that tax for maybe 5 or 10 years, because if we don't need a flood, so when I say don't New York my Florida, I mean that in multiple ways, right? I don't need your views, your values, because what happens is they destroyed New York City. When I say do not New York my Florida, you destroyed it, you madamied it, you voted that, you created that, then you come down here and we call it repentance, right? Change the way you think and you vote the same way and you create the same mess. So we can't make an incentive. I don't mean this the wrong way. We have the issues we have now is because of COVID and our governor. But he should have put some kind of regulation on it. Number one, national builders shouldn't have the right to do it. To me, it's about Florida first. We got to get Florida values, Florida businesses, every opportunity first before anything national comes in here. That's hard not in New York, my Florida. But number two, y'all going to come in here, move here, you're going to have to pay a tax rate. You're not going to get the benefit us Floridians get every day, because what that's going to do is an influence. But it starts out with homestead. And then I want to work it from there to more, to where we can get any property, because your rental property and all that kind of stuff, to where, because and make it where they can't, your cities and counties can increase commercial or other property on rentals, because then your rental price goes up too. Yes, ma'am. Yell out.
My
We got another
question
microphone.
is for you, and it pertains to appointing empty seats, like for county commissioners. Because we got a real doozy from DeSantis one time, and there's several other seats that he filled that I think the strategy should have been that seat gets offered first to the chief of staff, who is familiar with what the voting commissioner was already doing, what they were addressing for their constituents, and I want to know.
So I'm get you right. You're saying once somebody steps out or needs replaced, the governor appoints somebody, and it's usually somebody you don't want, or the city don't want, or the county don't want.
How are you going to do it?
I think we need to get back to we the people. So I think because here's my problem with what we have established today. We got county commissioners and city commissioners, and obviously they make bad decisions for us. So we got to get it back to where sometimes it comes back to a revote, or a special election, something. Because what's happening is, obviously you got special interest groups, you got Republicans, Democrats, both of them doing it, just appointing seats to do that, and they never represent the people, they represent the party. So we got to get it back to, now legislation-wise, governor-wise, I don't know how I make that happen, but to me it's back to common sense and godly values, it's back to we the people.
There's also an application process. So when somebody needs to be appointed by the governor, there's actually people who apply to the governor's office to do that. And another thing we can do is we can get citizen activists to write to the governor to lobby on behalf of who they want to see in that role. And if you get enough citizens to stand up and put that application up to the governor's office, then you can put the onus back on the governor to do the right thing. But yeah, even if it's a temporary measure, special elections are a great way to cover down on that as well. So you don't appoint somebody and just wait till the next cycle to end. You appoint somebody and then you schedule a special election as well, so that people can choose who they want to be their leaders.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Waste management runs our roads, all our roads. This road, that road, every road, thousands, millions of tons. Largest landfill in the southeast is getting cold. They pump sewage deep well into our ground. They bring it up and truck on railroad cars. They live over there. They're destroying our area. All in my town. We have no say. There's still pick up our garbage, we're not doing nothing for free. What are we gonna do to control these people? Data center, we just bought the data center off for a little bit, but it'll happen again because we're small, we're rural, we got area, we got water, so it'll come again. How did we give all that land to a community college, state college? We gave it. Then we were gonna write them $100 million check.
I'll answer that, Matt. But it's back to these guys behind you. It's voting people in. We voted people in that are bought by establishment. And these seats are being bought in. They're bought in for that reason why. If you look at their donor base, it's your waste management, it's your public utilities, it's all this stuff, and they're buying influence. That's one reason why you got to get all these guys in to where we can change all that and get the influence out, then change the PAC laws, the vote, the how you can give, and all that kind of stuff. Like Matt was saying earlier, if we get, as running an elected official, as a state official, I can take $3,000 per entity, and you can have 10 businesses and all that kind of stuff. I want to see it where it's $3,000 per individual. You know, where you have to crisscross the state, you have to go out there, and you have to earn your money, and not just people writing checks. But that's how it changes. It changes not by it. What you just said is what I say. We don't win the ballot box. We have not won the ballot box. If we won the ballot box, we wouldn't have the issues we have now. We win by godly men and women, godly character, people who are really going to fight for we the people getting in these seats. And the only way you know that is look at their fruit. I mean, you know, Matt, I know he ran for department or county commission down there, that he was running for governor. Because I get that Matt Miller for governor when I jumped in, and he looked at, to be honest with you, I think his wife told me he couldn't do it. And I'm talking the truth to that. But then Department of Agriculture. But he's been doing this research for a while. You know, each one of these guys, I know a lot about, I just met him, but reason why I asked, he actually asked to come, Marcus did, and he said, I just want to set up a table. And I was asked through Matt, because actually what's happened is Marcus's team's been knocking door to door. You heard that. He's actually asked Matt, can I have your flyers? So he's been flyering not only his campaign, but Matt's campaign. I met him in Port Charlotte a week ago. He says, give me your flyers and I'll campaign for you too. So he's willing to do the work for the right people. So I said, hey, you come. Then he didn't know he was going to speak today, and I gave him an opportunity to speak. And that's what I do each and every one of these. We're fighting for your right back to we the people, because we're being raped and pillaged by big corporations, by New York City. Waste Management, where are they from? AI data centers, where are these stock trading, where are they from? It's all New York. New York's idea is to come in here and monopolize the state and the nation, and they will create a socialist country. They're not telling you they're growing a socialist country by people you voted in. They're doing it by the influence they're doing it. And what's going to happen is you're seeing it. Me and you, small businesses, are slowly going out of business. You're getting put out by Amazon. You're getting put out by this person. You're a rancher. You're getting put out by AI data centers. You're getting put out by waste management. You're getting put out of business. Because at what point are we a concrete jungle? At what point do you raise your cattle? At what point, they're taking your same sanitation water, they're turning into brown water to water your lawn. They're doing that in some communities. Chemically treated stuff, they call it brown water, and say you can run your sprinkler. So now your kids and dogs are out playing in your sprinklers in reclaimed poopy water. And we wonder why we're in the situation we're in. It's back to voting the right people. Anybody else want to comment on that?
So as Ag Commissioner, like I said, you have 4 lobbyists, right? But they're not, while they're registered for the department, the principal is the department, they work on behalf of the people because we're paying them at the end of the day. The department doesn't operate with my money, it operates with our tax money. Our rural routes right now, not just here in Okeechobee, in Sumter County, I believe it is, they are taking the same thing from Miami, running it on train and dumping their trash up there up by Lake Panisofsky. You can actually see the mountain of trash while you're on Lake Panisofsky. And even worse is while you're on the lake, you can smell the landfill from the Lache. They had a Lache evaporator. So instead of letting the stuff percolate down, they were running it through, heating it up, and letting it just evaporate out. We have planning and zoning boards and all the county commissions, right? And they're supposed to be planning for new growth and coming up with ideas of how to handle the new growth. As Ag Commissioner, one of the ways I can see protecting our rural routes from not just trash from Miami or any of the other big cities is to make sure that when you're zoning and planning board, we have our lobbyists at FDAX make sure that they plan for how do they keep the trash and do something with it in Miami, in Tampa, in the areas. Like in Hillsborough County, they take the trash from from Tampa, and they run it out to the rural routes. Unfortunately, they run out there to Baum, and the people didn't want the landfill out there in Baum. But it's only Tampa's trash. It's not trash from Hillsborough or from neighboring communities and all the areas around. The same thing is happening with North Florida. They're taking Jacksonville. They wanted to take their reclaimed wastewater, send it through a pipeline, and dispose of it in swamps out there in the Osceola National Forest. There was so much, like you said, there was your county commissioners were just saying you're gonna get this to happen. Nobody in the rural routes, or the people in the rural routes, knew it was going to happen. Folks in Jacksonville had no idea their water was going to go get dumped onto the rural routes in Baker and Columbia and Hamilton and just a little tip of Alachua. Nobody in Tampa knew about it. The only folks that knew about it was the Swanee River Water Management District and the folks over there in Duval who were going to send that water on it. So as Ag Commissioner, one of the protections I want to see on the rural routes is that's a Jacksonville problem. That's a Duval County problem. Duval should figure out what to do with their wastewater. If you don't know what you do with your wastewater, it goes back to that's a good reason for growth management to put a moratorium on new growth until you figure out what's going on with it. And the same with the trash. Miami shouldn't be sending their trash to be dumped out here in our rural routes. We have planning and zoning boards. Let's use the lobbyists at FDAX to push back and demand the legislature pass some laws that say if you're approving the growth, you figure out what to do with the garbage, what to do with the wastewater before you approve new growth. Because it's not fair to us out in the rural routes that we just get dumped on quite literally in multiple ways, especially if we are a farming community, like you said, injecting that stuff down into the ground. What happens if one of the wells blows out at the aquifer level? They tell us it can't happen. They tell us trust us. But they also said trust us up there at Piney Point when they had the spill and it caused the red tide all the way up and down. So as Ag Commissioner, I plan on fighting for the rural routes, using the lobbyists that the department has, that we're paying for. And the biggest thing, some of the smaller towns, some of the smaller counties, not so much, but I know like Lee County and Hillsborough and all of them, some of your county commissioners are hiring lobbyists to go and lobby on behalf of the county. So when you get there with your county, my question is when you're hiring a lobbyist is, don't we have state representatives? Don't we have state senators that are supposed to represent the will of the people? So if your county commissioner is telling you we can't because it's illegal, tell them, well then work with our state representatives to put protections for our rural boundaries from trash from Miami. Work with our representatives or your lobbyists that they're hiring, because at the end of the day, when they're hiring these lobbying firms, they're not hiring them with their personal dollars. They're using our tax dollars, sometimes in the neighborhood of hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to hire lobbyists to represent the will of the county. But at the end of the day, the county's supposed to resort to the people. So I would look through, see if they have lobbyists, and then when they give you that excuse, go, hey, why can't we use our lobbyists to get what we want out this way and make the laws? One of the things they showed us with the HB 91, with the name change debacle that they did with me, they can do whatever they want. They're lawmakers. If you can add an amendment to try to keep somebody off the ballot because all they did was change their name, they hadn't committed a crime or done anything extreme, then you can make an amendment or make a bill to give us growth management laws. You can make a bill to give us a moratorium on data centers. You can make a bill to say if you have trash in Miami, you have to find something to do with the trash. Don't ship it up to Lake Manistee. Don't ship it up out this way. Find somewhere to do with your trash, and that's why we have planning boards. But right now, the planning board and the county commissioners, they're just wanting to rubber stamp growth without any real accountability of the people. And the biggest thing in Missouri, it was Festive, Missouri, I think it was the town. I might have butchered the name of the town. When they approved the data center against the will of the people went right back and voted everybody off the county council. That is a huge sign to the establishment, is to get out there in the primaries and vote. Vote for people that aren't sending you the mailers, that you don't see on the TV ad, because those are the people who haven't sold out your neighborhoods. If you're getting 3 mailers a day, if you're seeing a guy on the TV, radio ads, or wherever else you're seeing advertisements, those are the people that have made a deal with the establishment to get inside the party and make sure they get elected, and basically it's always a yes vote. You guys have anything else for me? Yes, sir. You might have to really yell at me or come up this way.
about a year ago. I've been watching it, that's on, with the Mr. Bottom here. Go to your big knife and outdoor. I hunt, I fish, I am very passionate about it. You gotta get it down to Bear Island, to Everglades. This is the headwaters of it. So actually, up here comes the headwaters of everything. All of our grass and everything. How are we gonna ever get into this back? You could down there. I can take you down there now where I can take you 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Well, we could go through there at night with a trophy and a light, and within 100 yards, you're gonna have a winter draw. And you're done for the night and go home. We work the whole weekend. Me and my brother, the whole weekend, 2 days in a row, just to get 110 days.
Yeah.
When you, 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago, we were killing on the grass, we were killing everything.
Are they killing it by chemical spraying or whatever? Okay. So the thing with the chemical spraying is your governor candidate is one of the most important, naturally, because he appoints the FWC commissioners on the board. And you have Rodney Barreto, who was appointed under Jeb Bush, reappointed under Charlie Crist, and then appointed under DeSantis. Needless to say, he should have been out a very long time ago. When you have the pesticide requirement, so in the state of Florida, under the pesticide law, all of that falls under the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. And while I couldn't go up to the FWC and say, I'm going to stop you from spraying because I'm the Ag Commissioner, we can unregister chemicals in the state of Florida. And right now, there's only been 2 that I have seen studies on that they've even looked at. So they're saying, well, the science, like the FWC will say, their herbicide isn't contributing to the decline of the fisheries, to algae blooms and all that stuff. Well, and I was just going to, on the other side of that, yeah. So when you look at the Southwest Florida Water Management District for Lake Trafford, they said at one time was a sandy bottom until persistent herbicide use. Yeah. And everything the FWC is denying, Swift Mud is saying you're causing. And this Lake Trafford is from 2018. They said the persistent herbicide use is killing off the aquatic plants. They're sinking to the bottom. For lack of a better term, they're turning into aquatic compost. That's what's making that muck. And there's a guy up in Hawthorne area, Eric Castle. He actually got a pretty good picture of a video of him grabbing the weeds as they were starting to turn into the black muck, as they were starting to turn into the mud. So the Swift Mud blames the FWC, or not blames, but they blame the pesticides, the herbicides that they're spraying in our waterways for the algae blooms, the decline in our fisheries, and the black muck on the bottom. And so many people will say it's too expensive to mechanically harvest, because they ask what's the solution to mechanically, and when you say mechanically harvest, they say, oh, it's too expensive. But then when you start adding in everything that they're doing, like on Lake Trafford, they had to come back in, they said, I can't remember what year, but they had to dredge all that muck off the bottom of the lake. That was $22 million just on Lake Trafford. And then you go up to Lake County on Lake Yale, they have the same thing. The county commissioner up there said that herbicide use has caused hydrilla, and well, the folks like yourself and the FWC often debate if that's really the cause of it. She basically blamed it from herbicides causing the algae, because they sequester the nutrients, and once you spray them with herbicides, they re-release that nutrients and back in the water and cause the algae bloom. So in Lake Yale, they're having to dump aluminum sulfate into the water to bind to the nutrient pollution and sink it down to the bottom of the lake. So not only are you having to pay for chemicals to spray in our waterways, but they're coming back with another chemical, which is aluminum sulfate, to dump in the water to try to clean up the algae bloom, and that costs $10 million. So if you look at Trafford and Lake Yale, you're having to spend money to control the algae now and more chemicals. That's another $10 million. And then depending on the size of the lake, you're having to dredge the lake. In a roundabout way, they're still mechanically harvesting the weeds. They're just mechanically harvesting them as muck instead of them actually looking at weeds. And then you flip over to Lake Okeechobee. There's 1,000 acres. I don't know if you folks are aware of this, but on Lake Okeechobee, I think it's the southeast side of the lake, Seapro is going to be, that's one of the chemical companies. They're going to be putting this chemical in there called Nutrifix or something in the name. Don't quote me on the name, but it's a chemical to control the algae, or the phosphorus in the lake, to bind to it and get it to sink down to the bottom. It doesn't actually fix the solution of the problem. It binds to that phosphorus pollution or the nutrient pollution and sinks it down the bottom of the lake. It's a Band-Aid. but that's more chemicals in Lake Okeechobee on top of the chemicals that Applied Aquatics has been hammering it with between FWC and the Army Corps of Engineers pounding that lake with herbicides. The lake has turned into a mud hole. I was out there with a guy who's a bass fisherman. We were on one of the canals. I said, well, you guys don't fish out here in the lake anymore? He's like, the lake's a mud hole. He's like, pretty much the whole lake is just this black, nasty mud. So it's destroying our fisheries, these chemicals are. They're destroying the habitat for the spawning fish, the shrimp, grass shrimp, and all of, pretty much the whole ecosystem. You can't hardly find it. And then on some of these chemicals you look, they say in the label they'll damage invertebrates, and they have all of these adverse effects to fish and everything else with them. So there's reason enough to stop spraying these chemicals in our waterways. And the craziest part is some of the very plants they're spraying is the solution to cleaning up the water. Water lettuce. Now water lettuce, they're starting to debate, is it an invasive plant or is it native? And they found it in the fossil record, water lettuce seed 12,000 years ago, they say. So they're saying some of the water lettuce might actually be native, but we're going to spray it anyways because it's impeding navigation. You look at the Indian River Lagoon, before they dump the stormwater, they use water lettuce to clean the water to take all the nutrient pollution out so they can get it down and clean it up before they dump it in the Indian River Lagoon. And manatees like to feed on water lettuce. So you have starving manatees in some areas of the state. The state had to go out and buy romaine lettuce. Why wouldn't you contract a mechanical harvester to take the water lettuce that the manatees will eat and feed it off of there instead of buying romaine lettuce? I think it boils down to common sense, putting somebody in with common sense that not only has common sense, but is willing to listen not just to the FWC scientists, because they'll tell us, the folks that are pro-spray, they'll say, we're not pro-spray, we're pro-science. Well, 5 years ago we learned, do we question the science, or do we, the thing with science is it's made to be questioned.